The following episode contains approximately 815 spoilers for all seasons and episodes of Lost. You have been warned. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to another episode of Lost the Plot. This is episode 16 of Lost the Plot. We are going to be reviewing season 1, episode 17 of Lost, titled In Translation. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to my wonderful co-host, Dave.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dave. That's Ado. I think we forget to introduce ourselves all the time. So it's important, whoever is not being introduced to say the name of the other one.
Yeah, we really should do that more often. We are the two co-hosts of the fantastic podcast Lost the Plot, which you are currently listening to, a podcast where two Irish lads talk shite about ABC's hit show Lost.
Oh, and there's the tagline.
I'm trying to get that tagline, boy.
What's up? How are you, man?
Yeah, so far so good. Interesting times we are living in. How are you doing today? Anything interesting in the last week?
Not a lot. Speaking of interesting times, booked me booster shot today, so I'm getting it 2 weeks from today, which I believe is the day this episode comes out. So listeners, when you're listening to this episode, I was going to say 150% vaccinated. My first vaccine, I posted said I was 50% vaccinated. The science now suggests I was only 33.33% vaccinated. It might even turn out to be less. The point is, I'm getting my booster.
And am I right in saying that percentage number, it actually depreciates over time?
I suppose it does, yeah.
It becomes less effective over time.
Yeah, that's true. I love these people, these anti-vaxxers who are saying like, oh, you're going to need to get it every year. As if like, I'm talking about the really fringe ones here who think there's some kind of mind control in the vaccine. But if you have to re-up it every year to get your mind controlled, that's not a very good mind control. Just if it's leaked that you're all right, then it's a good thing that we have to get it every year because then we can just stop getting it.
Yeah, but can I just point out that they never said a fucking thing about the flu jab before that. People were getting that on a yearly basis.
I mean, some of them did, the OG anti-vaxxers, because, anti-vaxxers was a thing well before COVID. We just kind of lumped them all together now, but it's been a long time thing. Well, man, we're getting spicy today. We never really, it's really a sad state of our world that vaccinations become a political issue, but we never really talk about quote unquote political issues.
Yeah, my usual argument against anti-vaxxers is just one word: polio. Move on, right? What more needs to be said? Come on.
How many people do you know with polio?
You're welcome. Thank you, science.
But yeah, other than the booster, not much going on with me. How about yourself?
Me, not a whole lot going on with me. I'll tell you what, I had lunch today and it was a very interesting lunch. You want to know who I had lunch with today, Dave?
Who'd you have lunch with?
Me and my girlfriend went to a pub and we had lovely creamy pints of stout. I had a fish and chips. And we also had lunch with my ex-girlfriend, who has been mentioned on this podcast before.
How did that go?
It was interesting. Me and my ex, we're good friends. No animosity at the end of our relationship. So it was just pure happenstance. Me and herself, we were out in town doing a bit of shopping. I was starving. I was starting to get hangry. And herself decides to go looking for fucking measuring cups because she wants to bake cookies or some shit like this, right? And then I get a text from Kaylee and she's like, "Are you in town?" I said, "I am." She says, "Do you want to do lunch? Pints or something?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck, yes." So it was really interesting just sitting there with these two women, looking from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And I'm there thinking, hey, Eskimo sisters. It's an interesting thought that crosses your mind.
Yeah. Don't leave us hanging. Did Mary make those cookies in the end?
Mary did not make those cookies in the end, but I know that when she does, they are going to be phenomenal. I think I mentioned it on last week's episode, the whole snickerdoodle thing, right?
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah. If we have not cut that.
I was about to say unless we cut it.
But just to recap, in case we cut it out or if you've forgotten, my girlfriend asked me, have I ever had a snickerdoodle? I said no. She looked personally offended and decided to just make them for me. And they were phenomenal. Any Irish people listening to this, not familiar with a snickerdoodle? It's basically a sugar-coated cookie.
Hold on a sec. Maybe I wasn't listening, but you just said she didn't make the cookies and now you're saying she did?
Now, this was the snickerdoodles. No. She wants to make a whole other set of cookies.
Okay. Was her needing to purchase measuring cups based on winging it with the snickerdoodles going badly?
No, the snickerdoodles didn't go badly, but she just wants measuring cups. She needs all the right equipment to feel safe and secure in, just making sure the correct measurements are going into everything. It just makes you feel more confident. And I'm telling you, dude, food preparation, a solid 60% of what makes a really good chef, for example, is the fucking equipment they use.
100%.
Absolutely. Like you're fond of a little bit of cooking yourself, aren't you?
Yes, I just made lomo saltado right before we started recording. It was delightful.
What in the blue fuck is that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a Peruvian dish. It's like a stir fry on top of chips, and it's lovely.
A stir fry on top of chips. Is it anything like a spice bag?
Do you know what? It wouldn't be a million miles away from a spice bag. It's like a load of cut up beef, just stir fried with red onions and peppers, garlic. You throw in like your soy sauce, your cumin powder, whatever, and then you just fuck it on top of a rake of, in this case, air fried chips for me. And yeah, it was pretty great. I'm not gonna lie. A couple of slices of tomato on top, bit of hot sauce.
Oh, talk dirty to me.
Yeah, pretty easy to make.
That sounds gorgeous.
Come here. I have more food related questions, but first of all, do you have an air fryer?
I don't have an air fryer, no.
If I were in a position to give it to you, I would get you one as a housewarming party. I'm not discovering the atom here with this take, but air fryers, there's a reason they're booming in popularity. I saw someone
what is the big deal? Sorry, I'm gonna invoke my inner Jerry Seinfeld now with air fryers. What is the deal with air fryers?
It fries things with air. It's an air fryer. I don't know. I think it's because they're convenient. The stuff that comes out of them is tasty. You can make almost anything in them. With chips, for example, it negates the need for oil, so it makes them a bit healthier.
Okay. I mean, I've got an oven.
Yeah, I don't know. It's quicker than the oven. It's less of a pain in the arse. It's cleaner, I would say, overall. More convenient. Takes less time. Stuff's more evenly cooked. You don't have to put them out on a single roll like you would in an oven. You can just pile them on top of them.
I love how in your list of pros, it's quicker and it takes less time. We're two separate entries. Like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel here for reasons to sell this to me.
I stand by it. But I did see recently someone made a GoFundMe that was, let's buy the Queen an air fryer before she dies. I'm pretty sure they hit that goal as well. So I really hope that happened.
No, first of all, I'm assuming they mean the Queen of England, right?
Yeah, because she's on the way out. God bless her.
Is she? Is she poorly?
They're keeping it under wraps, but you know what that means usually.
Yeah.
She's not making many public appearances. There was that, I don't know how aware of that sort of meme you are. There was a press release about the Queen that said she had entered a new phase and wouldn't be seen until after Christmas. This was about November last year. And everybody sort of jumped on this phrasing, she's entered a new phase. And it became like, I've entered a new phase of my depression, or this is my new term for my anxiety or whatever. I don't know, just like, how Twitter and these Gen Zs run with things.
Twitter is such a fucking toxic place where lies just get picked up and spread so fucking quickly. By the way, at Lost the Plot Lads, you'll find us on Twitter. But poor old Lizzie, poor in health now. I did not hear anything about this. Although, as you say, under wraps and all that shit.
No, not to get on my high horse here, but there isn't a single African nation that's been independent for as long as she's been queen. So she's no angel, or Lizzie. Her family certainly aren't.
That is totally true. That is totally true. I remember watching a video not that long ago. I say not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. But basically, what is the plan for when the Queen dies, right? In Great Britain, the United Kingdom in general. Like, there is a plan that has been in place for years for when the Queen dies.
They're not allowed to show comedy on BBC for like 2 weeks afterwards or something.
Something like
right?
that, yeah. There's a black tie on hand under the desk of every news presenter, just in case it has to, be donned.
That's amazing.
There's all kinds of weird shit ready to be deployed at the push of a button. As soon as word comes out from Buckingham Palace, the Queen is dead. Boom, button gets pushed, and there's a whole procession of events that just takes place almost automatically. But I got thinking, I had a random idea, and I want to know what you think, Dave, right?
Go on.
The day the Queen dies, we replace the intro theme music on this with Come Out You Black and Tans. Now, I
Do
don't
you
know
even
how
have to ask?
receptive. Here's the thing. I love the English. I love the English people and the people of Great Britain in general, individually.
Yeah,
Especially-
my missus is English.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You see, love them individually, but politically, as a nation.
Well, it's the English ruling class, isn't it? And obviously the English working class and to a certain extent the middle class now and throughout history have always suffered at their hands as much as, maybe not as much, but almost as much as their subjects, you know? Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I will say as much. We don't want to be having a pissing competition with who's been more oppressed by the ruling class. Like, I mean, working class people everywhere, the English included.
Oh, which is a competition we Irish have longed to win all the time. we as a nation just have like this fucking victim complex, don't we?
100%, especially when it comes to the English people. I just can't bring myself to express that I enjoy anything that's British, you know, to my girlfriend's face, even if I very clearly do.
How much of Downton Abbey have you watched, Dave?
I never finished it because I thought it got shit.
Oh, really? You see, I deliberately said Downton Abbey because I knew you were big into it at one point.
In no small part because there was an Irish character who was like a revolutionary, was a sympathetic to the Irish Revolution. And then they just made him fall in love with the Lord's daughter and completely clipped his wings politically. And he became just this fucking lapdog of the family. It's insulting. Great character before that.
Have you ever, doesn't matter how much of it you've watched, have you ever watched The Crown?
I haven't watched a minute of The Crown. Having said that, it's on the list because I've heard some things. I've heard good things.
I will come out of this closet and say I have watched a certain amount of The Crown. I've watched the first 3 seasons of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say, it's not bad.
Yeah?
It's not bad. It's entertaining. But I also hated myself for finding it entertaining.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Ado, we haven't waffled on like this in a while. In fact, we've been consciously trying not to reduce our episode lengths. So I'm guessing we don't have an email this week.
You are absolutely spot on. We do not have an email this week. That's why I have no problem with a little bit of waffle on before we get into it. But even though we don't have a listener email, we do have a little bit of news.
Bit of housekeeping.
Yeah, tiny little bit of news, little bit of housekeeping, as you said, to use your expression. We now have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you are a subscriber of YouTube Music, or even if you just like to idly browse it whenever, you can find us Lost the Plot podcast on YouTube. Every Wednesday when an episode goes out, it's automatically getting uploaded to the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah. Now I want to manage expectations here. This is just another podcast feed for now. There's no video content up there as of this recording.
Yeah, we have deliberately decided to do no video recording because both of us are ugly as fucking sin, and that'll actually drive people away.
We have faces for radio.
Yeah, faces only a mother can love. And even then, she hasn't told me in a long time. All right, Dave, what do you think? Is it time to move on?
I think so.
I believe it's time to go. This week, we are looking at Season 1, Episode 17, In Translation. What do you think of the title?
Well, first of all, it's ellipses in translation.
Well, true.
There's a ... which is obviously implying like the joke is it's lost in translation.
Yes, and believe it or not, I'm sorry to give a spoiler this far in advance before we get to the trivia section at the end, but this is the only trivia point I have for this episode.
Oh, no.
This is only one of 2 episodes that make use of the show title as part of the episode title. Lost in Translation and Lost and Found. And both of them are Sun and Jin episodes.
Oh, interesting. I guess it's sort of, and Found is sort of a subtle callback to this then.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think of the title, Lost in Translation?
I like it. It's another kind of return to form of, you know, the punniness of how Lost titles can be. A little bit tongue in cheek. Yeah,
it's a bit cheeky. It's like a very simple puzzle. And when you put it together, you do get that sort of twinge of satisfaction.
But it's also incredibly apt and relevant to the climax of this episode, which a lot of the pun episodes wouldn't be. You know, the episodes with the puns in the title, like we've seen it before. Some of those titles are just a pun for the sake of a pun, but this one, it's actually, you know, it serves a purpose almost. Yeah,
you know, I don't think I'd really considered that, but you're right. So, like you said, the climax of this episode, sort of when the shoe drops at the end for Sun and Jin, he really is lost in translation in in sort of I can't tell if it's a more or less literal use of that phrasing.
I think it's a more literal.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more literal than anything.
We can discuss it more when we get to that scene, I guess.
Yes. We have plenty to discuss later on. This episode was written by our good old homeboy, Griot Marchois.
What up, Griot?
Along with a newcomer, Mr. Leonard Dick.
Lenny Dick. All right.
What's
his deal?
Len has just written a few episodes for Lost, about 6 or 7 from what I can tell, 6 to be precise, in translation being his first with Griot Marchois. He's only written 1 episode, which is entirely on his own, and that is The Greater Good, season 1, episode 21. We will be covering it later this season.
Who directed this bad boy?
Oh, this episode was directed by Tucker Gates. Tucker Gates we have seen before, but only once, and when he directed Confidence Man.
Nice. I thought this episode was really well directed. Lost is not one of those shows that's known for its cinematography, but there were a couple of moments in this show in this episode where I really noticed it, and I'll point them out when we get to them.
So, to get into the episode, we open up with our good old favorite eye motif.
We on Jin's eye.
Yeah, very distinctive Jin's eye. And he's just staring out at the sea. He's on the beach, just getting his toes nice and wet in the water. Well, not really. He's up in the sand. He's getting them all scratchy and dry and shit. Watching the waves. And then we instantly, within the space of, I'd say, about 6-7 seconds, we hit a flashback. We're in Korea. Jin is talking to Big Boss Man.
Yeah, it's a hell of an office he's standing in.
Yeah, tell me about it. Do you know what? Here's the thing. I looked at this office and I thought, that doesn't look like it was always supposed to be an office.
I agree. Yeah, it's a bit weirdly shaped.
Yeah, it looks as though like it's a transitionary area, like a lobby from which other offices might be attached to or should be attached to, but it's all glass and fancy looking. So they just shoved a desk there and a chair and said it's an office.
Well, there's old model cars in the background and there's like paintings of newer cars and stuff. It kind of looks like they just stuck a desk in the middle of a museum floor.
Do you know what? They probably did.
That could be it, yeah. The paintings in the background, they're weird looking new cars. It's weird. People don't paint cars often, I bet. I was wondering, was it maybe one of Jack Bender's, but I think he likes to paint a bit more abstract.
I have not been able to find any information on the stuff behind Mr. Peck, who I'm about to mention. Big Boss Man here, Jin is talking to. Face on him like a slapped arse.
Mr. Pike?
Yeah. He's got such an unsymmetrical face. Like, this lad gained weight and had a mild stroke about 4 years ago.
Honest to God, yeah. He's such an unpleasant looking man as well, just in demeanor. I mean, in contrast to Daniel Day-Kim, who's just a gorgeous dude.
Yeah,
he's got the most distinctive cheekbones I've ever seen.
Right?
You know how people go on about cheekbones a lot, and I feel like maybe it's not one of those things that I'm particularly drawn to because it's not something I will always notice about someone. So when people say like, "Oh, you've got great cheekbones," I don't really know what they're talking about. But DDK has got to be the prime example of this.
I'm now just going to call him Diddy Kong. You've just called him DDK, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, Diddy Kong.
I used to have a friend that referred to Daniel Day-Lewis as DDL, and since Daniel Day-Kim has 2/3 of his name, although spelled differently, I just call him DDK.
Yeah, makes sense. So good old DDK is talking to the least symmetrically faced individual I have ever seen, Mr. Pike. I don't mean to be, no, I'm sorry. I'm actually going to stop here again. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean about the cunt, but it looks as though he was cast deliberately because of his face.
100%, yeah.
Just so he looks menacing. You know what I mean?
It looks, Daniel Day-Kim's cheekbones are so sharp that it looks like you beat his head off Daniel Day-Kim's cheekbones, and that was the result.
Oh, fuck. But if we haven't said it yet already, this big boss man, Mr. Pike, he's talking to is Son's dad. And he's given the usual discussion, the very typical, what are your plans with my daughter? This kind of thing. Like, what are your intentions with my daughter? And
I believe this scene is right before the scene in Son's episode where Jin comes out and says that the dad gave his permission, right? It has to be.
It has to be, like, immediately preceding it, because this is Jin basically asking for Son's hand in marriage, asking the dad, for his blessing, his permission. And Mr. Pike says, what would your dad think it is? And Jin straight up, I'm sorry to drop a little spoiler, but fibs and says that his dad's dead. Right?
Yeah.
So no need to talk about the dad anymore. He's out of the question. He's dead, whatever. And Mr. Pike's like, well, what would you do for my daughter? And Jin says, anything, right? So he can see that Jin is very clearly committed to being with his daughter and very committed to her happiness. So he's like, yeah, okay, cool, awesome. Shakes his hand. And there's a very interesting thing here. Did you notice when he shakes his hand that Jin brings one hand over to touch his elbow?
Yes, I did notice that.
So this is something that I saw a lot when I was a teenager, because I used to do Taekwondo for years, the Korean martial art. And anytime you won an award or you won a match or something, referee would come over and, well, sorry, the referee wouldn't do this, but if you were in a grading, your instructor would shake your hand and they would do it like that. From what I can tell, it's a very Korean tradition where if you're shaking hands with someone of a higher status than you or someone who's older than you, or if you just want to be super uber fucking respectful, you do it like that. You shake with the right hand, with your left hand, touch your elbow, and you bow.
I like it. Yeah, I assumed it was a sign of respect, and it's nice. It's
tasteful. The funny thing is, if Mr. Pike wanted to show the same level of courtesy, he would have used both hands to shake Jin's, but no, left hand straight down, like Putin, down by his side, unmoving.
Before we move on from this scene, can I just say that there's a bit where Mr. Pike says, oh, so you'd so readily give up your dreams? You know, what kind of man is that for my daughter? And Jin says, she is my dream.
That sounds like such an on-the-fly, I don't know how to answer that question. This sounds good.
I thought it was so cute.
It is cute. I mean,
my heart melted.
It was kind of lucky that it was cute, but I don't think he planned that. I think he got caught out in the question. So we come back out of the flashback to Jin staring off at the beach, and we see Sun strolling across the beach in a teeny weeny blue bikini.
What it leaves to the imagination only exists in Michael's head.
Oh, yeah, I nearly forgot that. Michael's gotten him.
He's seen way more than we have here.
Yeah, Michael's gotten him a good eyeful. But Jin is obviously alarmed by this. I mean, she had like the top button of this really high-necked top unbuttoned, and he was like, button that up, you know, like you're showing too much skin, all this shit. Like he's really controlling about this. And all of a sudden, she's just strolling out in a bikini. Now, I'm not saying she shouldn't be allowed to do that, but what in her mind convinced her that he would be okay with this?
Yeah.
Or did she just not give a fuck anymore?
Well, God, I hope so. You go, girl.
Yeah, power to her. But I love how on this scene on the beach, we just see Jane standing there, Sun walks out, and the beach looks practically deserted. And then as soon as Jin runs up to try and cover her up and they get into a little bit of an argy-bargy about it, all of a sudden, it's like fucking Times Square. Everybody is there on the beach just staring at them like, oh, there they are. There they go at it again. Oh, dear.
It looks like an Irish beach when the sun is out and the temperature goes above 15 degrees. Just fucking neck to neck.
Goes above 10.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a great bit of continuity here. You know, we like to compliment Lost on their continuity. At the end of the last episode, Charlie asked Claire to go for a walk. And in this episode, they're on a walk.
That is so not what I thought you were going to say, but okay then. The bit of continuity that I love is we are so many episodes ahead now, and Jin is still wearing that fucking half of the cufflinks. Not cufflinks, the handcuffs.
Oh, damn, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he's still wearing it on his left wrist.
I was just being a little bollocks point in mine. There actually is some continuity. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, in the middle of this little argy-bargy, Jin is trying to convince Sun to cover up. And yeah, they're speaking in Korean, but there's no subtitles for it, except for Jin running up saying, what are you doing? Are you out of your mind? And I'm going to translate what's said. Sun says, why? I went out for some swimming. And Jin says, what do you mean? Sun says, how about this swimsuit? Jin says, what a child. There are other swimsuits. So why are you wearing this? She says, okay, I got it. And he's like, let's go. No, let's go. Now, what I will say is these translations I took from Google Translate. So maybe take them with a pinch of salt, okay? I am not native in Korean. So yeah, Michael then runs up and decides to, insert himself all up in their business, gets in between them, tries to break it up. And Sun takes this personally. Even though Michael's beef is mostly with Jin and how he's oppressing his wife, Sun gets in between them and gives Michael a right little slap across the cheek.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing. Michael looks literally gobsmacked because he is.
He's like, I'm on your side here. What are you doing?
So we get to the caves. Jin suspects something is going on between Sun and Michael. So in the caves, Jin and Sun, They've just had this little argy-bargy on the beach where Michael got involved. And Jin is saying to her, what's going on with you and Michael, right? And I love that he's asking her this question because she just stood up for him, and slapped Michael as if to tell him to fuck off. Don't get into our business. But Jin's not stupid.
Yeah, no, he knows something's up.
Yeah.
Like, he clearly thinks it's more than it is, but he's right that there is something going on. It's just not what he thinks.
Even if it was what he thinks, how? There's no communication between Sun and Michael. It's not possible. Or at least, as far as Jin knows, right?
Yeah.
So we go from that into a lovely little flashback, another one. And it seems to be on Sun and Jin's wedding day, right? Because they're all...
Yeah.
She's in her wedding dress. At first, I thought she was shopping for dresses.
Is it her wedding dress? Because they put something over it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, at first I thought she was just wearing, trying on wedding dresses, right? But then Jin comes in and he's all dolled up to the nines in his little suit.
Yeah, and I can't remember. He asks, does he say, can I speak to my wife or can I speak to my fiance? Remember, he's talking to the lady that's in there with her.
Do you know what? I actually missed that. And it was only much later in the episode I realized might have been semi-relevant, or I wanted to bring it up on this show. But I went back and he actually says, can I have a moment with my wife? So they've just done the deed, I presume. But Sun makes the comment that she wishes that Jin's dad was alive to see this day. So the lie about his dad being dead is obviously it's what he tells everybody, literally everyone who isn't his dad, obviously.
And I think this is starting to get to him a little bit. You can see some subtle movements in his face. Daniel Day Kim's performance obviously helps with this in no small part. I'll talk a bit more about this later because I was kind of trying to track what exactly turned Jin from this loving husband into the sort of prick he is on the island now. And I think this is responsible for a lot of it. He's starting to feel guilty about the shame that he's feeling.
Ah, okay. That's an interesting take on it. But yeah, this is only 5 minutes precisely into the episode, and it's the second mention of Jin's dad, right?
Chekhov's dad. Yeah.
It's Chekhov's dad. 100%. He's been introduced in the episode. We've been reminded of him, and any viewer with two fucking brain cells rubbed together knows that this is going to result in a payoff.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, I remembered we met Jin's dad at some point, and then I was like, ooh, is it in this episode or are they just setting it up now? And then I was like, he's not going to have a flashback episode for another while, and they're not going to rely on television viewers in 2005 to remember this.
No,
that far away. But yeah, it's funny that they mentioned their honeymoon here.
Yeah, Jin makes the promise to Sun that they will have the honeymoon that they always dreamed of, and just kind of reaches around, grabs the first fucking flower he can find and gives it to her. And this is so sweet. This is their thing. He just gives her a small little insignificant flower, but it means so much to her.
It's super sweet. Would you go to the Lost Island on your honeymoon?
Now, define the Lost Island. Do you mean in real life? Would I go to Hawaii, or would I go to an island that can only be fucking accessed by getting involved in a plane crash with no guarantee of getting off it?
Yeah, the second one.
In a heartbeat, my man.
Yeah, me too.
In a fucking
Wouldn't it be
heartbeat.
awesome?
That'd be so fucking sick. Only if I knew I was going to survive it. Only if I knew I was going to survive that crash.
Great little holiday destination as well. What if you run into Jacob and he's like, you're not a candidate, but I just thought it'd be nice for you and your new missus to have a little getaway.
Yeah, you're not really important. You serve the purpose of a potted plant. Just stand there and look pretty, okay? You're here for my entertainment.
Go hang out with Scott over there, or is it Steve?
Do you know what? I've actually forgotten which one's dead. Do you remember?
Yeah, only because I was editing the episode where we talked about it recently. It was Scott.
Scott's dead. Okay.
Yeah, but I kind of wish I hadn't told you now.
Man, I'm going to forget that by next week. So we go from that flashback to the beach. Sun is trying to talk to Michael, trying to apologize to him while he's working on his raft, which, by the way...
Oh, raft looking fresh.
Holy shit.
What the fuck? It's so handy to have Michael around. These survivors are so lucky that they got such a capable passenger list. You got fucking Locke, Jack, Michael, and Saeed. One of those would be a fucking home run to have on a deserted island situation, but they got all four of them. They also got fucking Charlie, you know, but what are you going to do?
Little English rat. Like, if they wanted to, they could just stay on that island and convene a sort of leadership council involving Dr. Jack, Crocodile Lock, West Side. This
and Michael.
And Michael. About to drop the hottest diss track about Sawyer, you know? Amazing. But yeah, you're so right. These are like the most capable motherfuckers. Like, who has been working on that raft with Michael? Michael!
Yeah, pretty much.
Walt.
Sawyer looks like he might be contributing a little bit now.
Teeny bit. But long story short, raft is looking good and it's coming along really well. Sun's trying to apologize to Michael, as I said, but she says that it's to protect him. It's to protect Michael because he doesn't know what Jin is capable of. And Michael basically says, well, you know, that just sounds like a nice hot cup of your fucking problem. You're the one who's married to him. He just wanted to help her.
Yeah, exactly. Keep in mind that Sun probably thinks that Jin straight up killed somebody because he came home with all that blood on him. I mean, as far as I can tell, that's really the only reason she fears him, right? There was a slow descent, obviously. He was like getting more distant and things like that. But she thinks he's dangerous because of that one instance.
Well, at least as far as we know, yeah, we haven't seen anything else in their flashbacks to suggest that, you know, he may have gone off on a ton of missions for Mr. Pike to occasionally kill somebody, chop off fingers, interrogate, torture, whatever. We just saw him, well, we're about to see him in this episode, essentially just beat a dude up, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that bad, right?
I mean, Charlie shot a dude 2 weeks ago and everyone was just like, hey, you doing all right, buddy?
Yeah, no one is really focusing on that. I feel like they should be focusing more on Charlie straight up murdering a motherfucker. But anyway, so that is what Sun is doing with Michael. Where the fuck is Jin? He's on the golf course and I'm loving it.
He's playing rage golf.
Yeah, with little rocks. They cannot be good for the club.
Yeah.
Like, what club is that he's using? It looks like a 7 or 6 iron, maybe.
I know almost nothing about golf.
Neither do I. I'm just saying that to sound semi-intelligent. It's not a putter and it's not a driver. I know that much.
Oh, you see, I would have guessed it was a driver. Okay, interesting.
No. Drivers are the ones with the big fat heads on them.
Oh, come on, it's a noble profession.
They've got added mass to them so that when you hit the ball, it goes an insanely long distance, you know, to drive it off from the initial teeing point. Could have been a chip and wedge that you'd use, like if you got your ball stuck in the bunker.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But he's using it on rocks, essentially, right? And he's not even playing. He's just driving. He's on the driving range, essentially, just hitting rocks as, what would you call it? Stress relief?
Yeah, rage golf.
And our boy Hurley rocks up. How can you not love Hurley?
He recommends sea urchins instead of rocks.
Yeah, doing that thing again of just talking to Jin as if he understands him like the house dog, as I keep saying, you know?
Yeah, it's particularly offensive in this scene because, all right, what the fuck is Hurley actually offering him here?
To go fishing with him.
Oh, is it fishing? I had no idea what he was talking about.
Those were fishing poles he was holding.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, because he knows that Jin is a fisherman. He knows that he likes fishing. Hurley thought to himself, what does my boy Jin like to do in his off time? I'm going to offer to do that with him. Spend some time with him. I mean, whether or not we've realized it, these two have actually bonded a little bit.
Yeah, although just because Jin fishes all the time doesn't mean that it's what he likes to do. Hurley's essentially coming up to him and going, hey, dude, you're upset? Let's go to work. If someone did that to me, I would swiftly punch them in the face.
I did not think of it that way.
Okay, this changes my entire opinion of the scene then, because I didn't really know what those sticks were. And Hurley was like, come on, dude, let's go. And I'm like, okay, could you explain what you mean, Hurley? And then he's like, all right, well, if you want to be alone, that's up to you or whatever. And he fucks off. And I'm like, you didn't even try to explain what you meant. If I don't know what you meant, how is he supposed to know?
I mean, I do have it here in my notes that Hurley makes absolutely no effort to be understood by Jin in what he's saying, but he doesn't really need to be in what he's saying. He just presents the fishing rods, 2 of them, and that's message enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Now it makes a lot more sense. Like I said, now that I know they're fishing rods, I thought he was like trying to build a hammock or something. I was wide on out. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, but Jin's not receptive to the idea of fishing at all. We go from there onto the beach. We've got Shannon tying knots on the raft. So there's our help.
I thought it was the raft at first. And I was like, I can't believe Shannon's helping on this. But then she was building a shelter later on. Is she working on both?
Maybe she's just trying to increase her crafting skill on the island.
Yeah, that could be it. Or trying to appeal to Saeed, who, as you know, can fucking rustle up technology out of nothing. So she's like, hey, look, I can do it too.
It fucking works because Saeed comes up and he's like super impressed by her bowline knots, which are perfect. And it's like, do you have a former career in the Navy I don't know about? And she says, no, it's just from sucking the dick of a lot of sailors, essentially.
Yeah, what the fuck? There's so much implication in Shannon's dating history. Again, I want to make it very clear. She is 20 years old and she's dated enough guys with sailboats to know how to tie knots. What would you say the mean age of someone who owns a sailboat is? It's got to be at least 40, right? And then, like, she's 20. She's been legal for 2 years. She's dated a lot of them. We got some sailboat pedos on our hands here. We got fucking Jeffrey Epstein's going. If Shannon was on Epstein's island, I'd understand why she wanted to get off this one so badly. Ooh. Ooh, as that line was coming out of my mouth, I was like, don't stop.
No. She worked on Epstein's island. She was the one that helped moor the boats as they came in. She'd throw them the rope and tie her perfect bowline knots.
All right, yeah, she was just under his employ, like Ghislaine Maxwell.
Before wiping off Prince Andrew's sweat.
Oh, dear. Oh, God.
So, yeah, Saeed looks at the types of knots that Shannon's tying together. I don't know how to talk about knots. And he practically just pops a chub right there. He's like, holy shit.
She ties another knot in his stomach.
Yeah, he's so eager to learn where she learned about knots. And she's like, nah, sucking the dick of other sailors. I keep saying sucking dick. She just says dating sailors, dating guys with boats. And he regrets asking, like, is Saeed the jealous type?
But then she says some shit about like them spending some time alone and with some rope or whatever. And Saeed.
Yeah, she suggests getting some rope and spending a Saturday night alone together and seeing what happens.
Yeah. And Saeed's smile, like everything his smile said was, this is why I came to America.
Oh, the smell of want off Shannon for this guy.
There's some really cringy flirting in this, but maybe this relationship is starting to grow on me a little bit. What I always doubted was I couldn't see the appeal for Saeed from his point of view. Like, I thought maybe he's attracted to her, but like there shouldn't be any great love story here.
That was why I always initially hated the Shannon and Saeed relationship, because it never made any sense to me. What is he seeing in her?
I think maybe he's seeing that she is more capable than she lets on. But I would have thought the fact that she doesn't let on that she's capable in the first place would have been unattractive to Saeed. So I don't know. When you contrast her with Nadia, who we've seen very little of yet, but Nadia was like tough as nails and she took no bullshit. She was independent. She could look after herself. If that's what Saeed likes, I'm not seeing much of that in Shannon.
Maybe he's got some sort of a fucking daddy kink or something. I don't know, like the age difference. I mean, sure, wanting to fuck Shannon. I mean, sure, you're on a deserted island. Who doesn't? You know, skinny, pretty blonde Barbie. I mean, whatever. It's like popcorn. I prefer a little bit more substance personally.
I guess his plan was to kick the door of Oceanic Flight A15 open in LAX and go, where the white women at? So he's just he sees his opportunity and he's taking it. I don't know.
Yeah, but he's developing really strong feelings for Shannon and he's starting to fall a little bit. You know what I mean? And I don't see how, because she's so vain and vapid and minus a personality. So staying on the beach, we've got Walt working on the raft and handsome cable to Michael. Michael's excited to really show his son New York and starts talking about the buildings and the architecture. And he's like, architecture?
I think it's fucking great. I laughed out loud when he said that because he's like, you know what? I can't wait to show you. And I'm like, oh, he's going to have some cool, like little insider take on New York. And then he goes, the buildings. It's the first thing you think of when you think of New York is I mean, I know he obviously means specific buildings and architecture that he respects, but just as a standalone line, it made me laugh.
But he specifically mentions the Flatiron Building. Are you familiar with the Flatiron Building?
I'm actually, I can't put a picture to it in my head. I meant to look it up.
You know the Flatiron Building. I
I'm gonna look it up
guarantee.
now. Hold on.
Yeah, if
I'm
you
looking it up.
Google it now, you will recognize it.
Flatiron Building. Oh yes, of course. Yeah. I like that one actually. It's cool. There's one very similar to it in Toronto, but not as tall.
The Flatiron Building is in so fucking many movies and TV shows and shit like that. The one thing I always remember the Flatiron Building for being in is it's the hotel in the John Wick movies.
Oh, confession. I haven't seen the John Wick movies.
Oh, highly recommended. Just popcorn movies. Turn your brain off, watch it.
Yeah.
Real simple plot, the first one.
But yeah, they've been on the list for a while. Just haven't really got around to them.
Get on it. But there's a hotel, the hotel. I forget the name of it. It's like the Metropolitan or the I forget the name of it. But anyway, the main hotel in those movies is the Flatiron Building, as well as a lot of buildings in a lot of TV shows and movies and shit like that. It gets a lot of airtime.
Where there's not lost trivia, there's general trivia.
So he goes on about the Flatiron Building and the architecture and how it inspired him to start drawing. And Walter's just like, Hey, can I go throw a ball for Vincent? Which is, it's kind of played funny in the show, but I don't know if it's the age I'm at and the fact, okay, I don't have kids, but I want to have kids. And I keep imagining my life with kids in the future. That actually kind of hurt me a little bit.
Yeah, I felt bad for Michael, although he takes it in stride. He takes it a lot better. I think it shows growth from his episode where he was struggling with being a father, because he's like, you can see he's stung by it, but it's like, this is what my son wants to do. Fuck
yeah,
it.
he just recognizes he's just a kid. So Walt promptly fucks right off with the dog. Jack comes on up, has a little chin wag with Michael.
Yeah, Jack is thoroughly like underimpressed by the raft. And what I mean is he does go like, hey, it's coming along nicely. But he should have been like, fucking hell, this thing looks unreal.
Yeah, although now in fairness, right, it's very out there and prominent on the beach. Jack is seeing that raft all the time, whereas we, the audience, are seeing it.
Even still, I'd be coming up to Michael going, just fair play to you, lad.
Some boat, like. But Jack, says he wants to give Michael the heads up, a little bit of a warning. There's a lot of talk about who's going to be on this thing when it gets off the beach. And, very obviously, there's two people working on it who are going to be on it, Michael and Walt. Michael says, it can fit 4 people and I've only got 1 spot left. So anybody at home, room for 4 on it. Michael and Walt are on it and there's 1 space left. We're missing 1. So Jack says, who's got the other spot? And who fucking rocks up? What's the matter, Doc? Fucking Sawyer out of nowhere. That was the worst Sawyer impression.
What's the matter, Doc?
What's the matter, Doc?
Louis Armstrong.
What a wonderful world.
Sawyer, the very definition of saunters up.
Fucking missed a trick by instead of saying, what's up, Doc? Damn. But yeah, saunters on up, hands over some materials, and reveals that he bought his way on the boat with some material that he'd been hoarding that was essential in the crafting of said boat.
Why do you think Sawyer wants a place on this boat, though? I understand he's desperate to get off the island, but it seems...
Well, there you go.
Like, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't seem like a sure thing at all. And he is kind of selfish in that way. He's a survivor, if nothing else.
Yeah, true. But he also wants to get back home where he can make money and con people and, I don't know, fuck hookers or something. Whatever the hell it is that Sawyer wants to do.
I would have thought his MO would be to let someone else go with the boat and do the work. And then if he gets rescued as a result of that, all good and well. And if not, he doesn't die. But whatever.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's fairly simple. Like, he just wants to get off the island. Here's the raft.
He's run out of books.
He's run out of books. He's run out of Playboys.
All the pages are stuck together at this point.
So then we cut from that scene. It's nighttime. We're on the beach and we've got Kate and Son. And Kate is just trying to convince Son to start fucking standing up for herself instead of being pushed around by this abusive husband. I actually think this is the name for it. Battered wife syndrome.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. Please, listeners, correct me if I'm wrong. But she's just fully defending Jin, saying he never used to be like that. He's a good man. He used to tell me how beautiful I was, as if, that's what makes a great husband for some reason.
Yeah, that's the only good thing she says. It's like, he thought I was hot.
But this whole discussion is interrupted. There's a bit of commotion on the beach. People start running. Something's caught their attention on the beach. And wouldn't you know it, there's a fire. Dave, what do you think is on fire?
Do you know what? I had totally forgotten this happened. So I went like, no, when I saw it, because we were talking about how impressed we were by this raft.
Yep.
I was fucking raging.
The raft
I love this little fake out that they do here. They had me hook, line, and sinker because they show Locke and they want to put the heat onto Locke first and then they take it off him swiftly. But I don't know. This was a very unique position to be in on a rewatch because I knew that Locke had been doing some shit to prevent them from getting off the island, but I forgot about who set the fire. So I immediately was like, fucking Locke.
Yeah, so was I. Because that time before when, who was it? Sawyer got hit over the head?
Saeed.
Saeed got hit over the head. We know that was Locke, right? When trying to do the whole thing with the transceivers, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah.
I mean,
blah.
we know that was Locke. It hasn't been revealed in the show yet.
No, it hasn't. So yeah, shit's on fire, yo. Everyone's kind of uselessly just trying to throw sand on it. It ain't doing shit. And Michael turns on Sun. Where is he? He knows that Jin did this. He feels it in his balls.
And lots of people are in agreement with them. Jack, to his credit, is like, come on, let's be reasonable. Like,
we don't know it was him.
Yeah. Is it reasonable to blame Jin in this case? I can see why they did, but I think Jack's right. Jin, no matter how pissed off he is, he doesn't have motivation to burn the fucking raft, surely.
I think so, because he just has a personal vendetta against Michael at this stage. So he just wants to hurt Michael. And he's not getting on that raft, whether it's intact or not. So Jin is literally exactly where he starts. What am I trying to say? It's no skin off Jin's nose if he burns that raft or not.
It's a bit of skin off his arms, though.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, Jack's trying to be diplomatic about it. And we cut to the caves. Jin's in the caves and Sun gets there and sees that Jin has hurt himself. His hands are fucked and bleeding and something's happened to him. And she's like, you did it, didn't you? You're the one that did it. The implication being burning the raft. He neither confirms nor denies this before fucking off.
Yeah, he gets really angry, though, because she mentions Michael. Why does he get so angry? Like, he really doesn't help his case by getting really pissed off.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with Jin here.
And he looks terrifying as well.
Well, he did say earlier in the episode, he asked Sun what's going on between her and Michael. So he thinks there's something going on. And we go from that into a flashback. And we've got Jin legging it up to Mr. Pike's office. There's been some sort of a problem with machinery that was old. Obviously, some sort of an incident happened. And as soon as Jin gets to the office, he bows over and he's like, oh, I apologize. The machinery was old. I should have. And then he's cut off. And Mr. Pike says, no, shut the fuck up. I'm not here to tell you off for whatever the hell happened. I'm giving you a promotion. You're going to be my special assistant. Do you know who this dude is? I didn't write his name down, but he's the Secretary for Environmental Safety. He says, do you know who this dude is? And Jin's like, yeah, I know who that it is. And Mr. Pike says, go to his house and give him a message. I'm very disappointed.
Sun's dad is a literal crony capitalist.
Correct.
Like you hear about crony capitalism, this is it incarnate.
Do you want to define crony capitalism for all of our listeners who don't know what it means, including possibly myself?
Ooh, okay, put on the spot here. It's essentially this. It's essentially like capitalism that uses the profits it's generated to perpetuate itself by any means necessary, however ruthless. Would be my attempt. Let me get you an exact definition.
That sounds like a really good definition, whether it's correct or not.
Thank you. Crony capitalism, sometimes called cronyism, is an economic system in which businesses thrive not as a result of free enterprise, but rather as a return on money amassed through collusion between a business class and the political class.
Ah, there you go.
I was a little bit off, but in this case, like he's pressing the environment minister and stuff like that. You know, it's. I think it's fitting. He just wants
Jin to go to this dude's house and tell him he is very disappointed. He is most displeased. So Jin's like, all right, I can fucking do that. Jin goes to this dude's gaff. We're still in the flashback. Goes to the dude's gaff. And this dude, as soon as he finds out Jin works for Mr. Pike, he's like, oh, dude, come on in.
Get in here, son.
Yeah. But he's nervous. He's not happy. He's nervous as fuck that Jin is here. And Jin is, he's like bemused is the best word.
His daughter's sitting on the couch and I looked at the dog and I was writing it down in my notes. I was like, oh, the kid has the same dog that Son gets. And as I was writing it down, I was like, oh. I know what's going to happen.
The penny drops. But yeah, Jin says, he's a message to deliver from Mr. Pike. And the dude freaks out. He's like, oh, please, not here. Not in front of my daughter.
And then it cuts to a shot of the daughter. And who's on the telly?
Fucking Hurley on the telly. I was so surprised. I forgot that.
Hurley is the Barney the dinosaur of Korea, confirmed.
Also, Chekhov's Hurley, because I know Hurley's he's an episode. He's a character in this episode. He appears once or twice. But in terms of specific Hurley references to his flashback, here's number one.
You'll have to tune in to Lost the Plot next week for the resolution of this, for the payoff. Ooh, the payoff, no pun intended.
Correct. So yeah, and Jin is so confused. Like, why this dude's freaking out? He's like, no, I'm just here to give you a message. Mr. Pike is very disappointed. And when the dude finds out, this secretary for environmental safety, he finds out that that's all Jin wanted to do. He is so over the moon, he rips the puppy from his daughter's arms and shoves it into Jin's. He's like, it's a very valuable breed. Very, very valuable. You must take it. And Jin's like, no, I don't want a dog. You must take it.
It's fucking weird, right? Why does he take the dog from his... The daughter has a rough go of it in this episode. She loses her fucking dog, and then she's got to see her dad getting the shit beat out of him later on.
Yeah.
She's going to grow up to be fucking the Harley Quinn of Korea.
She's going to take part in Squid Game. But yeah, Jin takes the dog eventually, and he's just like, all right, cool. We cut to the beach. We've got Boone and Saeed. Boone is just doing something, as actors tend to do, just general something to set up a conversation. Saeed walks up and he wants to talk about Shannon. Basically, he just wants to suss Boone out. Just like, hoping he doesn't object to it. Boone starts getting a little bit racist here. He's like, is this some Middle Eastern thing? You want to ask for my blessing? And so it's just like, no.
I don't know if racist is the word, but maybe culturally presumptuous or something.
Okay, fair. I can take that. But Saeed's like, no, just giving you a heads up. We're probably going to be a thing. And he sees that Boone is really hostile in this situation. So he's like, do you know what? I was extending a courtesy, not asking permission. Which, I mean, mic drop, right?
But Saeed can't say he wasn't warned. And what Boone says does get to him.
Yeah, because Boone then turns to him before he can get away. And he's like, do you know what? Shannon's just going to use you like she has used all of her other boyfriends. She's going to get whatever she wants out of you. You're an older, caring guy on this island. You fit the fucking bill. And as soon as she gets what she wants, you're going to be trash to her, basically. That's the message Boone gives him. And Saeed seems to contemplate it before we go to the next scene. It's the morning. Jin heads down to the river to pray. And it was actually in this scene that I noticed he still has the cuff on, right? The
nice.
handcuff, the bracelet.
But we get a great revelation here. We finally learned Sawyer's real name, which is Chuck Norris. Because the cunt fucking roundhouse kicks Jin in the face.
That is not a roundhouse kick in the face.
I don't know. Maybe not. I know roundhouse kicks are higher, but it's quite like he extends. I don't know. It was a notable kick. It wasn't just a kick in the face. He swung his leg around.
Oh shit. I literally just looked at that scene again. Do you know what? I thought he stomped him in the face. No, he does a solid little kick to the chin.
Yeah. No. He looks like the fucking Power Rangers or something.
Yeah. It's a very theatrical kick. Like, there's obviously no connection.
Perfect reference. Very theatrical.
Like, this is WWE level kick, right?
Yeah.
Jin gets the snot kicked out of him by Sawyer. Just one kick. We cut to a scene. We're on the beach. We've got Shannon. She's trying to tie up some tarp that she obviously picked from the tarp farm. Saeed.
Is that a Lost in My 40s reference?
Absolutely. Shout out. Lost in My 40s. If you guys aren't listening to them, go and listen to them. Really good podcast. Rival podcast, also discussing Lost. And they are not hacks. I just felt like I need to repeat that. Okay. So in this scene, Shannon putting up tarp. Saeed comes by, offers to help because all of a sudden she's now fucking useless again. She can't use those knots that she was so proficient in. Maybe she just doesn't want to make Saeed uncomfortable, showing off all the skills she learned from all the various skilled guys she's dated in the past.
Or maybe it's just an excuse to spend some time with them. When you have a little crush on someone and you do stuff like that, you're just looking for reasons to be around them.
But Saeed kind of says to her, maybe you should find another friend to help you with your rope tying, essentially. Saeed has taken Boone's words to heart.
Yeah, I couldn't get over this. I thought it was quite cunty of him to just take Boone's word for it.
He didn't talk to Shannon about it or anything, didn't
No.
discuss his concerns. I mean, this is what a relationship is. If you have problems or concerns with your partner, you fucking talk to them. Communication is key. No. Boone just said to Saeed, she's going to use you, you know, pump and dump, basically. And he decided to just, take his word for it.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was disappointed in Saeed because Boone basically said bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. And Saeed was like, I hear that. That's Saeed. You know? Like, maybe he's afraid of getting hurt because that's what Boone implied would happen. But like, he would have seen that coming. I don't know. He could have started a relationship with Shannon. And if he had gotten to know her better and saw like, oh, this is not going to end well, could have taken the agency to dump her then. I don't know. This is a bit weird that he was just like, yeah, I hear you, bro. Your sister's a bitch or whatever. You know?
Yeah, like Saeed is a lot more rational than that, and he just takes dumb young Boone's word for it. But anyway, she's very insulted by this. She knows immediately. She says to him, "You've been talking to my brother, haven't you?" Saeed's kind of put on the back foot by that. Shannon stomps off. We then cut to her stomping through the jungle. She comes across Locke, who is dissecting a rat, I think, judging by the long tail.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, that's gross." And he's like, "Gross, motherfucker! This is delish. What are you talking about?" and she demands to know where Boone is. This is such a brilliant scene. She's like, "Where's Boone?" And Locke's like, "I ain't seen him." She's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I ain't fucking see him." And she says, "Well, if you see him, just tell him to stay the hell out of my business. And if he's gonna go doing this and talking about this," and Locke's like, "Should I be writing this shit down? Like, cool off. It's got nothing to do with me." But he also says, if this is about you and Saeed, it's got nothing to do with Boone. This is an island. # new island, new you, new life.
Man, motherfucking Locke. This dude is wisdom on tap.
But he is. He's always like, even when he hasn't got a fucking lesson up his sleeve that'll change your life and probably mentally and physically scar you in some way, he's just got general words of wisdom. Like, he's on his shit. He knows what he's talking about.
He gives the best advice, though he seldom ever takes it.
He's kind of like a zookeeper among animals. He knows exactly what to say to all the people, and he's just on a different plane of intelligence to the rest of them.
He really is. He's like the island dad, particularly in this moment.
Like, don't worry what your brother says. You just go do your thing. So once we're done with Crocodile Locke's little bit of nuggets of wisdom, we're back in the jungle. Sawyer is frog marching Jin back to the beach.
Not a good look for Sawyer. A white man with a man of color on a fucking leash marching through the jungle.
That is rough, right? And he, if that's not bad enough, calls him Bruce.
Yeah.
Jesus, man, this is rough.
But yeah, he sits Jin down here, right? And he takes out his knife. Is that right?
He takes out his knife and just kind of waves it around. He doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I thought the camera work was really good, though. It's really threatening or something. Like it lingers sort of on the bottom half of Sawyer's face.
Correct. It's lingering on his mouth because that is what Jin's watching.
Yeah, it's kind of handheld. And like, remember I said earlier that I noted some of the cinematography in this episode in particular. Yes. I just thought that was an effective camera work there. Not very traditional Lost camera work. Although having said that, nothing really comes of this knife. I thought he was going to torture him a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that in Sawyer. I don't think he'd do something like that. But all he does is he just takes out the knife, waggles it in his face threateningly, and says, folks down on the beach might have been doctors and accountants a month ago, but it's Lord of the Flies time now. Sawyer is in his element.
He's just fucking with him, I guess.
So that brings us into a flashback. We've got Sun also frog marching Jin to a dining room table. She's got her hands over his eyes, instructing him to turn, sit down, and presents him with a wonderful feast of, I don't know what food it is. I'm assuming there's kimchi in there. Fucking Koreans love kimchi. You ever had kimchi?
Yeah. I like kimchi. I cook with it every now and again.
Yeah, I've never had kimchi before. I'm dying to try it out. I've only ever heard good things.
Fermented cabbage. It's divisive. It's a pretty strong taste. It can be quite spicy.
So in this scene, we've got Jin sitting down, lovely romantic meal with his wife. They obviously haven't had one in a long time. His cell phone rings, and you can see him. He's about to answer it, looks at her, and he's like, "No."
Sorry, his what rings?
Shut the fuck up.
Go home, Yank.
Be a good Yank now and go home. Yeah, his fucking mobile rings, and he shoves it back into his pocket.
Fuck off with yourself, will you? Says he.
Yeah, mobile rings. It's obviously work, and you can see that he's He's about to answer it, but he looks at his missus and decides, no, tonight is a night for us. We're going to dine. We're not going to be interrupted. No work tonight. And she's over the moon. Before ring, 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 the house phone rings, and it just fucking goes and goes and goes until we cut to a scene of Jin standing in front of Mr. Pike. Fucking work waits for no man. He's talking to Mr. Pike, and Pike is pissed. He is so annoyed. His factory's closed. He's losing millions because seemingly Jin can't deliver a message properly. It didn't work. The simple little message of Mr. Pike is most displeased apparently was not enough for the Secretary of Environmental Safety.
I just wanted you to send a text, lad. You went and took his dog.
So Mr. Pike now says, do you know what? You're going to go back and you're going to do the job again, except I'm going to send a fucking professional with you. And he's got this dude in the white suit. He's got a gun, and this dude means business.
Although I have to say, Jin is much more intimidating looking than this guy. I'd rather run into this guy in a dark alleyway than Daniel Day-Kim.
It's the cheekbones.
Exactly, yeah. He can fucking slice me neck open with them.
I would not want to try and punch him in the face.
Nah, you have to get your hand reconstructed.
So that brings us into the next scene. They're in the car. Jin and the dude in the white suit. Jin is driving, and the dude in the white suit, he's putting on like these white gloves, getting ready, instructs Jin to keep the engine running. He's going to be inside less than 2 minutes. When he gets out, drive no faster than the speed limit. Like, this dude's done this shit before. He knows what he's doing, right? They pull up to the house. Jin gets out of the car, legs it inside ahead of them.
What a job's worth.
Yeah. Pike is getting his money's worth at this point. Jin is going above and beyond Call of Duty, runs into the house and just beats the ever-loving shit out of this secretary.
Although, as he's quick to remind your man, it is an act of mercy in a way.
Yes, he leans into him and kind of whispers inaudibly to everyone else, I just saved your life. Even though he had to beat up this man in front of his family. I mean, well.
That's not what it looks like to his daughter. And Jin catches her eye.
Also, this is the second time we're seeing the interior of this house this episode, and I'm only now realizing they had a fucking like pool or fountain in the house or something.
Yeah, it's like a koi pond.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if he's the environment minister, he wants to bring nature into the home.
Oh, yeah, true. Actually, that could be it.
But I think seeing this girl's face here really fucks him up as well. It's more guilt on top of his guilt with the shame he feels about his dad.
Yeah, and DDK does a very deliberate head movement. I don't know how else to describe it, but he looks up to the side after beating up this dude, sees the family, and we get the shot of the girl and then reverse shot of DDK. And it's this kind of moment of realization where he just kind of stands up a little bit straighter looking at her. Oh, what would you call it? Cinematic shorthand to tell the audience he has just processed new information mentally. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's realizing something. He's thinking something he wasn't before. And that's what I'd say it is. It's pure guilt over what he's doing, what he's become. He boots it out of the house, gets home, and we get a repeat of a scene that we saw before.
Yeah, although with the slight extension at the end.
Yeah, he runs into the house where Son is, legs it into the bathroom. He's washing his hands, and Son comes in. She's just nagging him, pissing him off. Whose blood is it? Is it your blood? What do you do for my father? She gives him a slap. We've seen this before. It's a great fucking scene. But the look he gives her after she slaps him, that is menacing.
Yeah, it's a bit like the look he gave her in the caves when she thought he had burned the boat.
And he responds to her saying, I do whatever your father asks me to do. But yeah, as you said, there's a little bit of an extension on this scene because after Son fucks off, Jin remains in the bathroom washing his hands and he just has a little bit of a whinge to himself.
It's a heartbreaking addendum. He starts bawling, crying.
Yeah, we didn't have that before. His hands are shaking, visibly shaking.
He's fucked up. I do think guilt is I think it's the driving emotion. That's my theory. It's guilt that's eating him up inside.
And you're not going to hear any disagreement from me on that one. But sticking with Jin, we're coming out of the flashback. We're on the beach. Sawyer tosses him to the ground, unties him, and this gets the attention of pretty much everybody on the beach. Michael comes sprinting when he sees Jin lying on the sand. And Jack legs it as well, but only to try and catch Michael and stop him from killing the poor fucker, really.
Gets pretty tense here.
Yeah, everyone's just standing around shouting. Hurley even gets involved, which I was actually surprised by.
Trying to be diplomatic.
Hurley tends to just sit these things out. Sun is standing there. She's looking at Jin. Everyone's standing around shouting. Jin is just so fucking confused. And then Jin says something in Korean. He says something like, yeah, you believe me, don't you? Yeah. And I'm not going to go translating every line here because there's a lot of Korean, but it's a lot of the same stuff repeated. He asks Sun, if she believes him. He continues denying that he set the fire, even as Michael's getting up in his face. Jin gets punched then by Michael. And when he stands up, we, like the non-Korean speaking audience, just see Jin talking to Michael in his face, and he's kind of getting a little bit aggro about it. But what he's saying is he hurt his hand trying to put out the fire. He's actually straight up telling Michael this. He said that the fire must have already been lit when he left the camp. As soon as he saw the fire, he tried to put it out, and that's how he hurt his hand. That's what he's trying to tell Michael, right? Michael don't care. Michael hits him again because he doesn't know what he's saying. Only one person can fix this whole situation.
Yeah, Jin does say it quite intimidatingly, even if he isn't admitting no fault. But we do get this interesting little Jin's ear view of everything that's going on. They garble up the dialogue to make it sound like English to the ears of someone who doesn't speak it.
And you know what? I'm so glad you mentioned that because I have a fantastic video I want to tell you about, Dave.
Is it Adriano Celentano's Prison Colin and Sin Nain See You So?
Prison Colin Ice and Cuso.
There we go.
One of the most amazing videos on the internet.
I had the exact same thought when I was watching this. I looked it up so that I had the name of it. But I knew you'd know about it. You want to explain it to the listener?
Prison Colin Ice and Cuso is a video by this Adrian. What's his last name?
Adriano Celentano. He's Italian.
Adriano Celentano, right? It's a song, from what I can tell, is written to just sound like English.
Yeah, I think this Adriano Celentano is an Italian comedian.
He's Italian, yeah.
He's a comedian, I think.
Like, it's a song that's supposed to sound... Help me describe it, Dave. I'm fucking up my words.
It's basically a song that's meant to sound like English to people who don't speak English. It's English sounding gibberish, basically.
Yes, English sounding gibberish. That's exactly what it is.
But it's quite an insight into how English sounds to people who don't speak it. We will never know what that's like, truly. But I think this is probably a pretty good stand-in for that. And it's also a fucking tune to boot.
It's a banger. So yeah, little Jin's ear view doesn't sound like the right word, but yeah, of all the garbled English, just to hear what they all sound like to him, because it's total nonsense. He doesn't have a clue what they're saying until eventually Michael goes to hit the fucker at Clout a third time, and Sun finally decides to do something about it by shouting, "Stop it."
Oof, this hits Jin harder than Michael ever could.
She starts shouting that he didn't burn your boat, he didn't do it, like just short little English phrases, and the penny drops with Jin that his wife is fluent in English and he never knew. She's been able to understand everybody on the island while he couldn't. Oh,
brutal.
I cannot imagine the betrayal and the embarrassment that he must feel.
Yeah, the trust has been broken.
But yeah, as soon as it's revealed that Sun speaks English, oh, my two favorite guys, Charlie just goes, "You speak English?" And Hurley there doesn't even move. Hurley's like, "Didn't see that coming."
And from these characters' perspectives, yeah, that's a fucking wild revelation.
Yeah. Michael, now obviously this isn't news to Michael. Michael always knew that Sun can speak English. And Kate, yes. Michael wants to know why Jin ran, and Sun passes off the question to Jin. No answer. Why did you run, basically? Like, if you're not guilty, why did you run away? But yeah, she says that her husband's a lot of things, but he's not a liar. And Sawyer says, "You're one to talk, Betty." What is this reference to Betty? I don't get it.
The only thing I can think of is she's Barney Rubble's wife in the Flintstones.
Oh, maybe?
And the only way I can see that fitting is that she has black hair.
I mean, that's got to be it, right? But then we have old man Crocodile Locke showing up, dropping some hot fucking wisdom. He just rocks up and points out, "Hey, you're all pointing fingers at each other. We know there are other people on this island who want to hurt us, kidnap us, and have done so, as well as kill members of our team. So why don't you start, I don't know, pointing fingers at them instead of each other?" Drops a mic, fucks off. The look on Jack's face afterwards, he's like, do you know what? Yeah, sound logic.
Again, at this point, I still thought it was Locke who did it, and I was like, "You snaky motherfucker!"
Yeah, I at this point I thought it was still Locke, and he's just trying to take the heat off himself, possibly.
Literally, yeah.
I don't think Michael is fully convinced with that, but he accepts it and he just fucks off. And everyone gives Jin and Sun a little bit of space. This is kind of like, I would dare say, this is the climax of the episode, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
And we're just left with Jin and Sun. And she approaches him. He's not having any of it. He just turns and walks away from her.
There's a beautiful shot here of him walking away. Do you remember this? It's like a wide shot of the ocean and them in front of it. And if you'll allow me to put on like my film student hat for a second, never have been a film student, like, but you know, to sound like a YouTube video essayist or something. I mean, it's like a visual representation of the gulf between them. Like this, there's like a sea between them now, essentially, because he's just found out that she can speak this language that everybody else can. He's the only person who can. He's got to feel more alone than ever in this moment.
And I can completely identify with him. Well, maybe not completely.
You are Korean, aren't you, Edo?
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm just strongly reminded of that time I went to visit my girlfriend in France. I don't speak French. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, then, to bring up the movie that this title may be referencing, you should watch Lost in Translation, because that's kind of what it's about. It's about feeling lonely in a foreign country.
Ah, okay. But yeah, do you know what? That's a really great observation. An ocean between them now that the trust is broken.
And it's a beautiful shot as well.
I find the rest of this episode fairly uninteresting, so let's just go through it, right?
We can power through.
Yeah. We're back on the beach after Jin and Sun have their little argy-bargy and he just fucks off. On the beach, Michael, he's fuming over the raft.
Why is he only surveying the damage now? Didn't it burn down yesterday?
Well, maybe he's already surveyed it. He's just coming back to it. You know, he spent so much fucking time working on it. He's not just going to look at it and go, well, shit's fucked, and then leave it forever. Like, he's going to come back to it and see, is there anything that can be salvaged? But he says that there isn't. Fucking, how frustrated must he be? Holy shit.
I can't even imagine.
No, don't particularly want to. There's a lot of negative feelings going around here. And I'm like, hashtag good vibes only.
It would be like if the entire audio file of this episode got deleted after we recorded it.
Oh, don't even say that. Don't.
I need to knock on all the wood I can find right now.
But yeah, he's talking to his boy, Walt, and Walt volunteers to help him build his so-called newer and better raft.
Yeah, Michael gets a little pep in his step here.
Yeah, because his son wants to help him.
Fucking level up. Good dad achievement unlocked. He does really well here with this kid.
We cut from that. We're back in the caves. Sun is trying to talk to Jin, and he's just having none of this. He's given her the good old-fashioned, tried and trusted silent treatment. Personal favorite of mine.
He's basically saying, "Oh, you speak English, so I guess I don't understand you."
Yeah, but she says she wants to go back to the way things were. The way the relationship started off when they were both so sweet and innocent and everything was good without all of this drama. And as Jin is walking away, she suddenly starts shouting at him in English.
She's dramatic in Korean and melodramatic in English.
She says, I was going to leave you. Like this big confession that she was going to leave him, that she was going to get away. Yeah, that she was basically going to fuck off and abandon him. But he made her change her mind. Jin
understands in a certain way, not the words, obviously, but he kind of, there's something in his face that he realizes that she's saying something important here.
Well, I mean, it's exactly like the house dog. If you just say the word walkies to your pet dog, they will want to go. But if you stand over them and shout walkies, they will be really scared because they just go by the tone of your voice to try and tell what you're trying to say.
It's an interesting choice for Sun to switch to English here.
Just to be able to make the confession to him without him understanding it. But she says that he made her change her mind, making her think that he still loved her. Brings us into a flashback of Jin driving up to what looks to be like a little fishing spot. Like there's a small little pier, a couple of small little boats.
And he gets out of the car looking slick as hell.
He looks like one of the agents from the Matrix. He's just got these shades on that he just takes off. And walks up to this simple fisherman who we find out is his dad. Chekhov's dad pays off.
Chekhov's dad's here. Daniel Day Kim's acting is phenomenal here. Him and Sun Jin Kim are both incredible in this episode, but he kind of starts crying when he tells his dad that he's been ashamed of him, right? And it's so real and so believable. It's a wonderful performance from DDK.
Yeah, and his dad is, good dad achievement unlocked. He just doesn't give a fuck. His son is here, and he gets to spend some time with him. He's just happy out. But it's not for free. Oh, no. Fisherman dad's time is not free. If you're going to hang out with him, get some gloves on, help out, get in the boat.
You got to contrast Sun and Jin's dads here, though, because Sun's dad is a miserable fuck, just a disgusting capitalist, horrible man. And Jin's dad, you can just tell he's a lovely man from looking at him. He's just got such a pleasant face.
Oh, he's so lovely.
It really is a metaphor for class conflict.
It is. He's such a happy-go-lucky, not a care in the world type of fella, you know.
Yeah. This man in the high tower with all his wealth, but he's a miserable, unempathetic, just looks like he just had a stroke fuck. And this simple fisherman who knows the simple things in life, and he's happy with his lot. He's
not the smartest guy in the world. He's not the richest guy in the world, but he's got heart and he knows what's up. Because Jin is telling his dad all about his son's father and how he's not a very nice man, and he has him doing all kinds of fucking things that he hates doing, and it's affecting the marriage. And now he's got him trying to deliver watches out to his associates in Australia and America. And the dad says, well, do you know what? Fucking do that and let it be the last damn thing you do for him. Get to America, get out of there, start a new life, because the most important thing to you is your missus.
Wisdom,
right?
Him and Locke should have a chat.
I don't think we could handle that. So then that brings us back to the discussion in the caves. And Jin just very simply tells Sun, it's too late to start over.
Why do you think he thinks that?
I think it's just the level of betrayal, the broken trust.
It's got to be, right?
It's not just the fact that she's fluent in English. How long did it take her to learn to speak English? Like, to start an entirely new language from beginning to end. How long does that take? She's been keeping this secret from him for so long.
Now, he's been keeping secrets from her as well, to be fair. But yeah, no, it's got to hurt.
My man is hurting.
Now, I hope that he can learn to see this for the advantage that it is. Like, he might feel more alone than ever right now, but really it's his ticket to feeling less alone. He's got someone who can translate.
Yeah, but you're not going to feel like that straight away.
No, of course not. Of course not.
At first, you're just going to feel like an outsider, like the only outsider. Whereas they were outsiders together, now he's the only one. She's part of their club. So, yeah, he tells her it's too late, gets his stuff, and fucks off, and she is devastated. Brilliant acting by Sun Jin Kim. Oh, so good.
The two of them are powerhouses.
Then we cut to nighttime. We're on the beach. Saeed's sitting by the fire. He's joined by Shannon. And they decide to do this thing. New island, new life, new them. And they shift.
They shift in front of the fire.
Romantic, right?
Bit of a tropey shot, but I still liked it. It worked for me.
They're allowed. They've earned it. Lost does do a lot of tropey, cliched, hackneyed bullshit. And I am always going to say that it's earned it, even when it hasn't. Because Lost can do no wrong to me. Saeed, Shannon, they just make out in front of this fire. Saeed's a bit bemused, and Shannon says, we all deserve a new life on this island. I'd like to start mine now. Thank you very much. Then we cut to Walt playing backgammon. Keep in mind, it is nighttime. This is very important. He's playing backgammon with nobody except Vincent. He's probably losing. Locke shows up, offers to play a little bit of a game. You know, he asks if he's got an opponent. And Walt says that Hurley owes him $83,000.
Yeah, fair warning to Locke.
2 reminders about Hurley and the money, which we are going to find out about in the next episode. Tune in next week. But yeah, they start talking about dads, and Walt asks Locke if his dad is cool. And Locke says no, his dad is not cool, which I think counts as understatement of the entire series.
Great little insight into Locke in this one line, though, because this entire episode, he's been chief of wisdom on the island. You see a little chink in the armor here. You know, you finally see that there might be something that actually bothers this dude.
So then Locke's all like, hey, Walt, can I just ask you a random question? And Walt's like, yeah, sure, what? And Locke says, why did you burn the raft?
Oh.
And there it is, the reveal.
Yeah, that took me by surprise. I totally forgot. Because Walt immediately owns up to it. Probably because he didn't want to see the buildings, right? Michael's shouting on him at the Flatiron building, and he's like, "Oh, fuck
It just
that.
sounded like such a bad idea.
Yeah, this is gonna be shite. I'm burning this fucking raft."
And Walt explains that he burnt the raft because he spent all of his life moving from place to place to place, that he just doesn't want to move anymore. And he's decided that the best place to start his new life is on this monster inhabited abandoned island in the middle of the South Pacific with polar bears.
Yeah, I didn't think Walt was all that into it because all he ever does is like throw the ball for Vincent. He seems pretty bored most of the time.
What women his age is he going to repopulate with?
Well, we haven't got to look at them others yet.
Are the rest of the survivors just waiting until he, becomes of age?
Comes of age. Gross.
They're just checking in on him every now and again to see how he's getting on. So yeah, Walt is just sick of moving around and he wanted to burn any hope of survival for the rest of the survivors. Okay, awesome. We cut back to the beach, and interesting enough, it's like sunset now, or is it sunrise? Because it was nighttime, now it's not.
It's got to be sunrise then, right? Because Michael's
Surely.
getting an ery start on the work.
Yeah, Michael's getting an early start on the work. He's working on the raft. Your man, what's it? Jin. Forgot his name. Jin walks by and he's got a whole shoulder load of bamboo, turns to look at Michael and just says, boat. It's like, all right.
When Michael sees him with the sticks carrying, he's like, the look on his face, he's like, the fuck is this lad doing?
Yeah, because they've hated each other since this whole show started. Now all of a sudden working together.
Jin needs something to keep his mind occupied.
And then Hurley just walks through the construction site with his headphones on, listening to Delicate by Damien Rice, Irish singer-songwriter. Plug.
Yeah, go on, Damien. Although I can't say I'm a big fan, to be honest.
No, I'm not a fan of his music, but hey, Irish, representation. There we go.
Represent.
Do you know, that's something I've always said is just so typical of Irish people. Name any movie or TV show, we'll tell you the Irish actor in it.
Exactly, the connection.
Yeah, we will tell you the Irish connection.
We'd be like, the fucking grip on that movie. He was from Ballyhonus now, that fella.
But yeah, Hurley is waltzing across construction site with, holding his little music box thing. What do you call it? Walkman.
A Walkman, Discman.
Discman, thank you. And as he's walking by and we're listening to the music, we see Shannon and Saeed. They're making fucking googly eyes at each other. We've got Sun going to the beach in her hot as fuck bikini again.
I just expected, do you remember the scene where Sawyer walked out of the water in the nip?
Yeah.
It just turns around and he's in the water. Sun's like, how are you coming out? And he's like, just a second.
Full hog on display. But yeah, she walks out to the waterfront, wrapped in a towel or a shawl or something, and then shrugs it off in what I can only take as some sort of a metaphor of her now being free of the abuse of Jin.
Some kind of heavy-handed liberation metaphor. I don't know.
Incredibly heavy-handed, but she was fucking devastated when he walked away from her, and now she's smiling. She's happy as shit.
I'm not really sure what they're getting at here because it didn't seem like she was free of him. That didn't seem to be the takeaway of that scene.
I'm so glad to hear you say that you weren't sure what they're getting at because I was confused as fuck. She's happy out like.
Maybe it is just to represent her independence and how she's taking it with or without Jin.
Yeah, fair. But then that cuts to Claire and Charlie. She's sitting down on the ground just being pregnant. Charlie rocks up with food or whatever. And then the focus changes and we've got Hurley in the foreground listening to his music. Dude, since the very first episode, we saw Hurley ending an episode with music. We've been waiting for this.
First of all, can I just say that I love the pan of Claire sitting with her belly out, and then it pans over to Hurley sitting the exact same way.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection.
I don't know if it was intentional, but to me, I just couldn't it was spot the difference.
I'm not one for fat shaming, but Hurley on the beach, damn boy, he thick.
I mean, I'm not fat shaming here. It can't be denied that he's got a belly. I have a belly. It's not quite as big as Hurley's, but I mean, I'm not saying he looks bad or anything. I just think it's funny that him and Claire basically have the exact same silhouette almost.
Boy, fuck, do I have a belly as well. And I can't wait to compare mine with Jorge Garcia when he comes on our podcast to drink tins with us.
Oh, I would have completely forgotten. Good
you
man.
Almost did.
Good man. I'll tell you, after them tins, our bellies are going to look a lot more Claire like ourselves.
So this is the scene we've been waiting for since we first saw Hurley with his Discman.
I think we had alluded to this an episode or two ago, right? We're like,
Yep.
I remember there was one more Discman scene. Yeah, it's great. Hall of Fame lost ending.
without everyone remembers this.
Yeah.
Even though it's so short and doesn't really happen. But Hurley's listening to Delicate by Damien Rice on the Walkman and it dies mid-song. It just straight up dies mid-song. Hurley looks at it and just goes, son of a bitch.
Incredible. The Foley, the way the music cuts out as well. I guess that's not Foley, just the sound design is so accurate to those Walkmen as well. I was gonna say so accurate to the time, and then I was like, wait, the Walkmen were a thing when this was filmed.
Yes.
The iPod had just come out.
They knew what it sounded like when it skipped.
Because they were there.
I used to have one of those. And if you just like tapped it the way he does, the music would just skip on it, or it might skip to a different part sometimes.
Yeah, it's a very distinctive sort of cutout. Like it stutters a bit.
And that brings us to the end of the episode. Lost.
What you think overall?
Do you know what? I wasn't looking forward to it when I started it because I don't know, maybe I was just caught up with the fact that I know that you have all the episodes where my favorite characters are centric, and I'm stuck with Jin and Sun.
You're stuck with the B-list characters basically most of the time, let's face it.
Hey, look, I'm okay with it. But this was a fucking great episode, and it's brilliant to see Jin's side of everything in the flashbacks. Like we saw Sun before, now we see Jin, and it's such a great pairing.
I really couldn't think of anything wrong with this episode. Maybe some of the Saeed and Shannon stuff if I was trying to be really like critical, but even that didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to. This was just a really, really well-written episode of television. Just a really solid episode of Lost.
Yeah.
There was no boring scenes in it.
I cannot disagree with that.
Yeah, great job to all involved. And once again, the performances by Daniel Day Kim and Sun Jin Kim were out of this world. The two of them are such good fucking actors.
Believable as fuck emotion-wise. So, what do you think, Dave? Would you like to hear a little bit of trivia?
I thought we didn't have any trivia.
Yeah, I was going to say too fucking bad. I don't have any, but I do have a few goofs. Okay?
Goose. Okay, all right. It's Goof Corner.
So the first thing I have, and I'm not sure if this counts as trivia or goof, but in the episode DOC, which is season 3, episode 18, a little bit in the future. Now, this is a rewatch podcast, so if you've already watched Lost, you'll know what I'm about to say, as in you'll be familiar with it. It'll make sense to you. If you have not seen Lost before, maybe skip ahead of it, right? But in season 3, episode 18, the character Juliet estimates that this day in this episode is the day that Sun and Jin conceived.
Okay, that seems unlikely.
Incredibly so, right? Do you see
That's
what I
a
mean?
goof.
I can't tell. It's a goof, right? Definitely goof.
Well,
I don't
okay.
see any opportunity for them to bump uglies.
Are you ready for the most disgusting thing I'm going to have said since the Ethan's head in the fanny, Charlie's head in the fanny theory from the abduction episode?
Please.
What if Jin beat off into her bikini bottoms?
And she got them wedgied up there. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of impossibility.
It nearly is, though. I'm pretty sure sperm won't stay alive. But hey, that's my headcanon.
Whoa, hold on. No. You can't just drop that and walk away. Let's play this one out, right? So Jin sees the blue bikini and thinks either his wife's gonna wear it or someone else's. Which is more realistic? Does he think his wife's gonna wear it?
No. I think
so. He beat off into it, thinking that who? Shannon was gonna wear it?
No. I think he saw her in the bikini. The first scene, right? He tries to cover her up, but he enjoys what he saw. And later on that night,
so
I don't know.
So when we're watching that final scene of Sun on the beach, we are unknowingly watching her getting pregnant live,
getting inseminated.
Oh, please don't say inseminated. That is disgusting.
Whenever I don't laugh more on this podcast ever than when we just get gross, like the Dutch lever conversation or the fucking head up the fanny.
Have you ever donated sperm, Dave?
I haven't. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Get out of town. That's mad. The only sperm I've donated is to your ma. Go on. What was your experience like?
I tell you, I was basically brought into a small little room where there was a chair, there was a little cup that I was given.
This is the content our listeners want.
There was a little cup. It looks like the type you see in, fucking Grey's Anatomy and shit that you take your own samples. It's a cup. It's a plastic cup with a little lid to seal on it.
Are there many sperm donation scenes in Grey's Anatomy?
The most disgusting thing I'd ever seen. There was a stack of Playboys from 1994.
94?
1994.
Damn. Who would have? I guess it was Pamela Anderson knocking around the Playboys back then.
I would have recognized Pam Anderson if I saw her. I don't know.
I was like, who would have been notable Playboy models back then? As if I fucking have a comprehensive list of them in my head.
But like, this was only, I mean, when would this have been? This was like 2000 and I'm going to say 17, give or take a year, right?
Oh, so they were 23-year-old Playboys.
Yes.
And God only knows how many wanks were had over them in that time.
I dared not to touch them. Holy shit. Not a chance. Thankfully, I had my phone with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely they've gone neglected since the advent of smartphones.
Surely, right? But yeah, I just thought that was a fun little anecdote. You talked about insemination and Jin ejaculating into bikini bottoms. Listen, I don't know how it was related. I just thought it was entertaining. Next bit of trivia, or goof, I should say. When Shannon is talking to Locke in the jungle, there's a blood stain on the left side of his face. Between shots, it changes from running horizontal to vertical.
0 out of 10, literally unwatchable.
Yeah, holy shit. Attention to detail, guys. Come on. Next on my list of goofs, at one point, we see a large blood stain on Jin's right elbow when he's washing the blood off his hands. In the next shot, the stain has disappeared. Do you know what? These are so shit, I nearly don't want to read them. Holy fuck.
I'm not going to lie. These are not very interesting goofs.
All right. I tell you what. Let's see. Oh, remember your shot at the end with Claire and Charlie?
Yeah.
When Charlie is walking up to Claire, you can very clearly see a navigation buoy out on the ocean behind them.
Maybe it's from the looking glass.
And the final one I'm going to give you, a blink and you'll miss it. When Hurley is approaching Jin on the golf course, at one point you can see a house in the bottom left corner in the background. And that's all I got. The trivia / goof sack is very light this week, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. All the B list characters I put up before, their episodes usually don't have a lot of trivia to them.
No, they don't, because the writers just don't give a solid fuck about it. All right, and that is it for the end of season 1, episode 17. In translation, we did our best to make heads or tails of it, but we got through it in the end. Dave, what is your theory for this week?
Walt didn't really burn down the raft because he wanted to stay on the island. He just didn't want to admit to Locke that he was trying to light his farts on fire.
Well, you heard it first here, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all the things, all of our channels. Everything's coming up in the credits later on.
Check out that new YouTube channel. Is it youtube.com/LostPlotLads?
No, you can catch us on youtube.com/capital U, capital C, lowercase m, capital A. It goes on. It's a whole fucking string of things. But yeah, if you just search Lost the Plot podcast and then scroll down a little bit, you'll find our very familiar artwork down there. Unfortunately, we only discovered how to do the YouTube thing for episode 14 onwards. Episodes 1 to 13 will be going up on YouTube at some point in the future. Stay tuned for that. Keep listening out for it if that's where you prefer to listen to your podcast. But for now, that's it until next week. That's goodbye from me.
And from me.
Take care.
Bye.
Lost the Plot is produced by Dave and I. Artwork by Jimmy Purcell of BeanBetterComic.com. Music by Noel Brennan of No Exit. Check out No Exit wherever you stream your music. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at LostThePlotLads or email us at losttheplotlads@gmail.com.